To a friend who married a shrew, 1724 by Jonathan Swift. Nell scolded in so loud a din, that will durst hardly venture in he marked the conjugal dispute. Nell roared incessant, Dick sat mute. But when he saw his friend appear, cried, bravely patience, good my dear. At sight of Will she bawled no more, but hurried out and clapped the door. Why, Dick, the devil's in thy Nell, quoth, Will, thy house is worse than hell. Why, what a peal the jade has rung. DN her, why don't you slit her tongue? For nothing else will make it cease. Dear, will I suffer this for peace? I never quarrel with my wife, I bear it for a quiet life. Scripture, you know, exhorts us to it, bids us to seek peace and ensue it. Will went again to visit Dick, and entering in the very nick, he saw virago Nell belabor, with Dick's own staff his peaceful neighbor. Poor Will, who needs must interpose, received a brace or two of blows. But now, to make my story short, Will drew out Dick to take a quart. Why, Dick, thy wife has devilish whims, oddsbuds, why don't you break her limbs? If she were mine, and had such tricks, I'd teach her how to handle sticks, ZDS, I would ship her to Jamaica one, or truck the carrion for tobacco, I'd send her far enough away, dear Will, but what would people say? Lord, I should get so ill a name, the neighbors round would cry out shame. Dick suffered for his peace and credit, but who believed him when he said it? Can he who makes himself a slave, consult his peace or credit save? Dick found it by his ill success, his quiet small, his credit less. She served him at the usual rate, she stunned, and then she broke his pate, and what he thought the hardest case, the parish jeered him to his face. Those men, who wore the breeches least, called him a cuckold fool and beast. At home, he was pursued with noise abroad, was pestered by the boys within, his wife would break his bones, without they pelted him with stones. The prentices procured a writing too, to act his patience, and her chiding. False patience and mistaken pride. There are 10,000 Dicks beside slaves to their quiet and good name, are used like Dick and bear the blame. Footnote 1c, post p. 200, a beautiful young nymph. Footnote 2, a performance got up by the rustics in some counties to ridicule and shame a man who has been guilty of beating his wife, or in this case, who has been beaten by her, by having a cart drawn through the village having in it two persons dressed to resemble the woman and her master, and a supposed representation of the beating, is inflicted and acted before the offender's door. Notes, Enquiries, 1st S. Roman 9 375-178 WEB. Advice to the Grub Street Versey Writers, 1726. Ye poets ragged and forlorn, down from your garrets, haste, ye rhymers dead as soon as born, not yet consigned to paste. I know a trick to make you thrive, O tease, a quaint device your stillborn poems shall revive and scorn to wrap up spice. Get all your verses printed fair, then let them well be dried, and curl one must have a special care to leave the margin wide. Lend these to paper-sparing to Pope, and when he sets to write, no letter with an envelope could give him more delight. When Pope has filled the margins round, why then recall your loan, sell them to Curl for £50, and swear they are your own. Footnote 1, the infamous piratical bookseller C. Pope's works passim WEB. Footnote 2, the original copy of Pope's celebrated translation of Homer, preserved in the British Museum, is almost entirely written on the covers of letters, and sometimes between the lines of the letters themselves.